Some of these methods are good, but only some are good for you. Have you seen the videos claiming all you need to play solos just like the pros is the cage system? Oh my God, you're so right. You know, I was watching Guthrie Govan play the other day, and you're right, it's exactly like the cage system. Liar. So we'll run a quick overview of these systems, list their pros and cons, will I ever be enough for my father, and finally, what systems do I recommend? Here we memorize every note on the strings from the nut to the 12 frets. And this is pretty foolproof because, for example, on the A string, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Foolproof. Now compare that to French. La, si, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Now my C is your B. Sounds just like C, my do, which sounds a lot like D, my re. My life is harder. Pros, I mean, this is the fastest way to learn every note on the fretboard. Cons, all you know is the name of the notes on the fretboard. You can't play anything. You pick a root, like this C, and you learn every intervals around it. And you take note of both how they look on the fretboard visually and how they sound. It's important to notice that this is what your minor third looks like on the same string, and the major third also on the same string. And on the string below, this is the minor third and the major third. Pros, if you learn that visually, I mean, a perfect 5 is a perfect 5, no matter where you are. Unless you're on the third string, different. And without you even realizing it, it trains your ear to these intervals because the fifth sounds extremely round and balanced. That major third sounds like a major third. It's very happy compared to the minor third. That makes it so much more musical than simply name mapping the whole neck. It's also a very useful tool for improv because now you can target that third, that 5, that 7. They're all very important notes to target when improvising. Cons, you kind of have to know the notes because if you can't place a root, well, you can't place any of its intervals. Here we start learning the 5 basic chord shapes, right? C, A, G, E, and D. Then we introduce the idea that you can play any major chord using all of these shapes. Example, the C starts with the C, leads into the A, into the awkward to play G shape, the regular E shape, and the also awkward to play D shape. It's important to note that the C shape and the A shape, they share the same root. So every time you see a root on the 5th string, you can either play a C shape or an A shape. Same thing with the G shape and the E shape. They share the same root. Pros, I mean, this is the simplest way to have a decent visual representation of the whole fretboard. It also teaches you every roots on the 2 bass strings, options to stack chords. Let's say your bandmate is playing a regular C and you don't want to play the exact same thing. Well, you can play the higher strings on the E shapes or the A shape, right? Even that D shape gives you option. It's a great tool for beginners. Cons, well, it's very limited. It leaves huge gaps between the notes. Regardless of what some viral videos are saying, it is not the tool for lead guitar players. Also, some of these shapes, like the G shape, the D shape, they're very awkward to play, especially for beginners. Almost no one teaches this in minor because, for example, the C minor shape, it's impossible to play as a chord, which leads to the next system, triads and arpeggios. Just like the cage system, triads are chord tones, meaning root, third, and 5th. Let's take the C shape, for example. I got my root, my third, and my 5th. While learning triads, you see that you can also play this shape. You can also play this one. Still the same, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. Then we learn 2 octaves arpeggios, which are the same triads, but repeated for 2 octaves. So let's say in G, I would start here on the root. Then the first inversion starting with the third. And the second inversion starting on the 5th. If you already know the cage system, you see that the first arpeggio covers the E-shaped chord, the second one, the C-shaped chord, and the third one, the A shape. Now the cage system has a real minor shape problem because it's hard to play, but the arpeggios, well, they fixed that. Here's the E minor shape, the C minor shape, and finally the A minor shape. Pros, these shapes cover a lot more ground than the classic cage system shapes, and it does it in 3 shape instead of 5. It's also a kick-ass lead guitar tool, by far my favorite because it blends so well with scales. Cons, I mean, if you're a beginner, those are huge stretch. Plus, I mean, sometimes it's nice to state the chord in your lead playing, but all the spicy notes, they're non-chord tones. Here we're going to include the pentatonic, the major modes, and the 3-note per string system. The pentatonic is the simplest because it's 5-note and 5 position. Many people start with the A minor because it's all natural notes, same note as the C. When you learn this, it's important to remember the placement of each root in each boxes. The modes of the major scale, they're always start around C because it's all natural notes, it's the beginning of all things, and you're new God. Now the 5 positions of the pentatonic, they're still relevant because all you need to do is add the 2nd and 6th degrees. By the way, modes are not scales. Now to put it simply, look at this 8th major or Ionian on the E string. All natural notes except for that B flat. Now F is my 1, right? It's my tonal center. My intervals are whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Now let's say I switch my tonal center to G, the 2nd notes, right? Now my riffs will revolve around that G, and when I land on it, it's gonna feel like home. Now from G to G, I haven't changed a note, right? It's all natural except for that B flat. But now look at my intervals. They're whole, half, whole, 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 half, whole. Now this is G Dorian. Even if it's exactly the same notes, it sounds very different because the intervals, they're not in the same order. For example, that F Ionian has a major 3rd. That G Dorian, it's a minor 3rd. Each mode has a very distinct flavor and it pays to learn them. Most guitar players don't though because they hate theory, and I don't blame them because I used to hate theory too. But when I realized how much it improved my playing by giving me so many options, changed my mind. Now the 3-note per string system, it's basically the same, but they make sure that you can always play 3 notes per string without any repeating notes. I'm not gonna lie, I always thought that was completely useless because the point of scales is to know what notes are available to you, not to run them up and down the fretboard at lightning speed. I prefer my tight boxes because they're easier to remember. Pros, practicing scales builds dexterity in your fretting hand and picking hand. It's a solid foundation for lead guitar players that want to improv because now you know every note available for that scale. It's intimidating for beginners that look at that chart and you say, holy crap, I gotta learn all that? But if you just start practicing those, you're gonna start seeing them all over the place on the board and you're gonna love it. It's also gonna be so much easier to learn songs by ear because when you know the scale, it takes so much of the guesswork out of the equation. Cons, I mean, if you learn just that, your solos and improv, they're gonna sound like scales because this method lacks any notion of chord tones. Tetrachords. All right, so first you learn these 4 shapes, these 4 tetrachords: major, minor, Phrygian, and Lydian. Each of these can be played in different ways, like with the pinky, with 3 notes on the higher string, with 2 notes on the lower string and 2 notes on the higher string, or 3 notes on the lower string and 1 note on the higher string. Now to build the major scale, you would start with the first major tetrachord, also known in this case the C tetrachord, then go to the G tetrachord. Right, so you start on 1, go over to the perfect 5th, same shape. Oh my god, it's amazing! I can build every scale I want just adding 2 small patterns? Wow! But I don't care about the major scale, so let's try this with Aeolian mode, right, the minor. Sounds great. What the hell? That's not Aeolian, that's Dorian. Well, the Aeolian mode is made from 1 minor tetrachord followed by a Phrygian tetrachord. You see where I'm going? Now my excitement faded abruptly. You want to know how to create all 7 modes with tetrachords? Ionian is 2 major tetrachord. Dorian, 2 minor tetrachords. Phrygian, 2 Phrygian tetrachords. Lydian, it's 1 Lydian, then 1 major. Mixolydian, 1 major followed by a minor. Aeolian, 1 minor and a Phrygian. Locrian, 1 minor and 1 Lydian. Do you hate your life already? Pros, it looks cool as hell. And if you manage to learn and use all of this, you have some serious bragging rights. Cons, well, you need to remember each combination to build all 7 modes. I don't see how you can map out the whole fretboard with this, because personally, it keeps me focused on a very tiny area of the neck. I'm not seeing all of this using this method. I mean, it's ancient Greek harp shit. It's not built for a guitar. So if you're a mere mortal like me, this won't speak to you. But if you're a wizard, Harry, then maybe you see all of these light up like a Christmas tree. Now, I like to see the fretboard through boxes that fit together to unlock the whole thing. Now, this is how I like to teach this. Why does it work? Because each system builds upon the last one. And you don't only learn what notes you can play, but why you're playing them. We start with the caged because it's a very simple system, only 3 notes. Forget about the minor shapes for now. Take your time to learn the root, but also the 3rd and 5th of each shape. Then we learn the arpeggios with the 7. Now you already know most of the roots, 3rd and 5th on the neck, so this goes pretty smoothly. Again, be aware of what interval you're playing at all time. Then we learn the pentatonic system. We already knew 1, 3, 5, and 7. Now we have the 4. It's important that you can spot every root in every boxes, and you can learn the intervals around as you're learning the boxes. Remember that part about intervals in the beginning? Now, just for kicks, you see how the caged and the pentatonics fit in one another? Now tell me that's not cool. Then we graduate to the modes of the major scale. It's a 7-note patterns. You already know 5. All you need to know is add the Locrian and the Lydian mode. When you know all this, well, you're ready for the challenge of the week. If any of these 4 systems is lacking in your playing, go grab your guitar right now and just learn one thing. 1 chord, 1 arpeggio shape, 1 pentatonic box, 1 thing. And if you're looking at all this thinking, I can never learn all of that crap, well, that video might change your mind. Guys, I appreciate you watching the whole thing. Cheers.